Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra, where we're going to be going through and looking at the latest patch for the game, patch 1.14. Lots of stuff in this patch. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the changes to the cards, the buffs, the nerfs, whatever. There's a lot of other such info in this patch, which we'll talk about a little bit, but the meat of this video is going to be the card changes. So let's get right into it. Let's see what they got here to say. Patch 1.14, it's going to have a new lab. The debut of Friend Spectate, which I'm pretty excited to see. I assume that's going to be very good for tournaments. Tournament organizers are probably happy to see that. And a heavy set of balance changes headlined by updates to 7 champions and some metagame data to share. That's a lot of champions. Now, I'm not going to go through too much of the metagame data. There's a lot here to read and unpack, but basically it seems like Riot is going to be doing this where they're going to be giving a lot of data such as win rates and play rates for decks that are, as we can see here, using Platinum and higher, Platinum, Diamond, and Masters across all 4 of the shards. It's nice. A little bit extra data is always nice to see, so people will be like, oh, well, I can see why they're nerfing this deck. It has like a 56% win rate, and it's like got a 10% play rate or whatever. And I can see why they won't be nerfing a certain deck while, for example, a deck that's annoying to play against, but it's not that good. Think Tom Soraka. So it seems like they're going to break it up. The prior patch here, you got the patch before the last patch where they nerfed Lee Sin. And as we can see, Lee Sin was the most played deck with a 53% win rate. Pretty high. And then we got basically the past week-ish of like the past couple of weeks of data of games, whatever. Most play deck now is still like this is discard aggro Draven Jinx. Not that high of a win rate. Standouts here in my opinion are Feel the Rush has a 55% win rate. That's really good. Deep has only a 49% win rate, and it's still very heavily played, which it's probably not a good idea to play it. And I believe the 2 decks with the highest win rates, the top 2 are both Demacia decks. You got Scouts here with 55.3%, 0.33. And then below you got Fiora Shen with 55.95. Everything else is only around, I think maybe Feel the Rush is the second highest at 55, or the third highest with 55%. Unless I'm blind missing one. And then you got some like outliers that are just bad, like TF Swain with a 49.98%. Again, I mentioned Deep already. Teemo Sejuani, because people are trying to play Feel the Rush Teemo Sejuani. That's not that great. And then you got a couple good ones here, like Darius Draven. That's just like some Darius Overwhelm stuff. Got a nice 54% win rate. And a Noxus Shadow Isles Elise. Just spider aggro with a 54.86 win rate. I'm glad to see this. I hope this tempers some people into not thinking like just because a person says a deck is bad, people will parrot it, or say something is good or bad, or vice versa, and they will just parrot it. And now you can be like, oh, well, for example, I'll use Tom Soraka. A lot of people think Tom Soraka is really OP and really busted. I would say it's annoying to play against. But as we can see here, 51.36% win rate. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't say that's a deck that needs to be considered getting a nerf. Now, of course, in the right meta, that win rate will shoot up. Like, Ruination being popular is holding this back, so who knows? In a Scout meta, which we're kind of in as well, but a meta where Scouts are even more popular, Tom Soraka might be really good. In a meta where Scouts are popular and Ruination's not popular, we might see more Tom Soraka, because it's good against Scouts. Anyway, though, that's enough of that. Let's get right into what we're here for, the card changes. Lots of champions, like they said. First up, we got Lucian. Not a big change. It's just that now he can trigger after or on the same round as he levels up. It's a actually big buff. Let's see what they have to say, because there's a lot of text here. This change and the similar one to Jinx below are intended to better align their level 2 effects with the way those of newer champs like Sejuani and Soraka function. And yeah, if you didn't know that, Sejuani and Soraka did do that. There is some challenge here due to their current state of balance, but we feel that champion consistency in this area warrants a change. I kind of agree. I like that it's consistent between the champions. We're releasing these changes as buffs since the new functionality doesn't feel significant enough in testing to warrant compensatory nerfs. But we'll be monitoring their impact to understand whether further changes are needed. I'm a little scared of this Lucian buff, actually. While it's not too popular of a deck, I do actually think Lucian Misfortune, like Lucian Senna Misfortune Scouts aggro, like the very aggressive as you can be, Scouts, Demacia mid, whatever you want to call it, deck. I think that is a very viable deck now. Sure, it's a little weak to Avalanche, but when Avalanche goes away, you can do this to pour on the pressure. Also, Shyvana is getting buffed. She's now a 4/4 instead of a 3/4. There's not much to talk about here. They don't even have much to say themselves. Shyvana's designed around attacking. Her stat lines too often kept her from being able to properly do just that. It's just a small little buff. There's not much to talk about, like I said. Puts her more in line with like 4-drops anyway on defense. And again, like they said, she wants to attack, but it's nice to have more attack, of course. More stats in general is always nice. Cards just love more stats. So again, this might help out dragons. Dragons are kind of bad and lacking in a lot of departments. Like the biggest issue I find with dragons, in my opinion, is the lack of a just solid good 3-drop. They have a lot of good 2-drops and a lot of good 4-drops, but the 3 slot, they're kind of hurting a little, and they just have to play a Demacia card that's decent, or a Targon card if they're in Targon, or whatever their second region is. Next up, oh yeah, we got Shyvana's leveled up form now as a 5/5 as well, so there's that. We got Vladimir getting a buff as well. Looking at this change to Vlad, I still think he's a bad card, even though this is a good buff. The old Vladimir just dealt 1 to everything else that would attack, and then dealt 1 to the Nexus. The new Vladimir only deals 1 to the allies to the right of him that are also attacking. At first, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's a nerf. But then I realized, like, well, it lets you attack in with things that would have died to Vladimir's ping, so you can attack him like a 2/1, just put it to the left of Vlad so it doesn't get pinged. And then Vladimir now only needs to see 5 allies survive damage instead of 6, which is the biggest buff. So I don't think I would say the whole, like, changing how his attack works with only hitting stuff on the right is a buff or a nerf. It's a side grade. It gives you more flexibility in attacking with things that would die. And yes, attacking with Vlad on the far left, who to make everything get pinged, does hurt a little bit, because sometimes you want to have Vlad on the right to try and level him up or something, but I don't know if it will be a big deal. And then his level up form is still pretty much the same, except for the change to how his attack works with the whole... the allies have to be on the right side now. Still just a 5-mana 6/6 with regen and his attack thing. Again, like I said, I don't think this is enough to bring Vlad into playability. He's still strong, but the problem I feel with Vlad decks is, first off, one of the best ones, the Crimson Disciple, I think it's the right Crimson, the 2/3. That got a nerf, and the other Crimsons are just kind of mediocre. And I also feel the problem with Vlad decks are they just work better with other champions. And in my opinion, the problem with Vlad is you kind of just want to have a lot of units on the field when you attack in with Vlad. And if you have a lot of units, you're probably already winning on the field anyway. So I just am not the biggest fan of Vlad. Let's see what they're saying. They don't say much here. We're giving Vlad a small boost by making his level up condition easier to achieve and giving players more agency in choosing which allies are hit by his effect. Cool. Thanks, Riot. Again, like I said, not much to talk about, not much to unpack, but it's nice. Now, this is one that people wanted for a while. Trundle. Trundle is getting a big nerf. He is now a 4/5 instead of a 4/6, and therefore his leveled up form is now a 5/6 instead of a 5/7. The Ice Pillar is also a 0/6. These are huge nerfs to Trundle. One of the big reasons... Trundle now just dies to a lot of 5-drops, actually, as well. Like... Garen, while he's not popular, is a thing. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's too popular that kills Trundle now that didn't kill Trundle before, but this is a painful nerf for Trundle. Trundle kind of was just meant to be a big wall that stops everything and bought time for whatever your late game was, whether it was Aurelion Soul, War Mothers, Field of Rush, so on and so forth. Also, Ice Pillar going down to 6 health is pretty big too. Sometimes you want that Ice Pillar just to stick around and be able to block like twice or something. Now it might not even be able to block twice. A little sad. Let's see what they have to say real quick. Trundle was too effective as a stat stick. Yeah, that was pretty much what people were using him for. Just comes down on the field, is big fatty, and just clogs up the ground and slows down combat. It was helping him act as a stall tool, doubling as a win con. Yep. He would sometimes just win all on his own because of his level up form. We love that Trundle has opened up new kinds of ramp decks since Call of the Mountain, so we want to make adjustments that preserve his ability to do that while opening him up to a bit more counterplay and softening his prowess as a blocker. In addition to a health nerf to Trundle himself, we're also adjusting Ice Pillar, which has had too much impact given its free cost leveling up Trundle, giving enemies vulnerable, and giving players a free action provided too much of an advantage. I was actually going to say like how that's probably one of the biggest advantages of Ice Pillar. You can play it, get all of your mana back, and you pass priority, so that's pretty powerful. Similarly to Trundle, we want to reduce the overall amount of stalling it provides and give opponents more potential for counterplay to its round start effect. I've talked about it before on my stream. I was saying how maybe the Ice Pillar won't give all 8 mana, maybe it could give 6 mana instead. I do like this change though. I think this change is a good change in that like you can't be as greedy now and just rely on like the turn 1 pass, turn 2 pass, turn 3 ramp, turn 4 Trundle and just hope that's enough. It's still very, very powerful, but the fact that you can just kill Trundle much easier now is going to come up a lot more. So War Mothers and all of that should still be okay, but between this and another nerf, I believe, yeah, it's not looking too good for them. Next up, we got Ezreal. Ezreal is getting both a buff and a rework. He's going to be easier to level. Instead of needing 10 enemies now, he only needs 6, which is less than his old one, which originally he was at 8, and then he became 10, and now it's 6. Ezreal's been worked so much, by the way. I can't even remember how many like changes he's had. He had the one back in the beta where his Nexus Strike Mystic Shot, I believe, was never fleeting, and then they made it fleeting. But leveled up Ezreal now says, instead of just dealing 2 whenever you cast a spell like he used to do, now it says, he still gets the whole Mystic Shot stuff, the fleeting Mystic Shot stuff when you do Nexus Strike, but it now says, when you cast a spell, deal 1 to the enemy Nexus. If it targeted an enemy, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus instead. I like this change because I feel like it preserves a lot of what made Ezreal really good as a control finisher, while taking away a lot of the annoyance of Ezreal in that, like, you just never had a chance to react to Ezreal. When he came down, your opponent would be like, okay, Karma, Ezreal, bang, 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 lots of burst spells. Now it kind of slows it down, cuts the damage in half. Sure, they can play, like, Mystic Shot and target a unit of yours, but if they do that, you get the option to respond to that. Sure, they can also still Mystic Shot your Nexus instead, deal 3 damage to the Nexus, but it's slowing it down. I feel like Ezreal at the moment is a little too slow for the meta with scouts being around, but who knows, if the meta slows down and Spooky Karma is actually a really good deck, we might see the rise of Karma Ezreal. People have been experimenting with the deck. I think it's bad at the moment because I think Ezreal's bad and Karma's a little too slow, but you might see Ezreal rise up again. Maybe Spooky Ezreal will come back too. I don't know. Next up though, let's see what we got next. We got Jinx. They talked about this earlier. Jinx now can trigger and get a rocket on the same round as she levels up. That's pretty nice. Check the Lucian context above for the full story, but one additional note for Jinx. If you play Jinx with an empty hand and she levels up, she still won't create a super mega death rocket right away. You'll need to empty your hand again in some way. Go from cards in hand to no cards in hand. It's a buff to discard aggro, and of course, like they said it with Lucian, how it's a buff, but they're doing it to add consistency because, you know, like Sejuani and friends already kind of did the same thing, so it's more for consistency, but it's still a buff. And discard aggro, while I don't think it's amazing, it's pretty decent. And this helps them out. Again, like I said, I don't think discard aggro is great, but it's playable. What have we got next? I think that's the last champ. No, we got Taric next. Taric is a 4 mana 3/4 now instead of a 2/3, so his leveled up form is a 4/5. They don't have much to say. Taric just could use better combat stats to enable him to both attack more cleanly and contribute more on defensive rounds. I really don't know what to say about Taric. I just feel like he sucks, really, overall. He's so hard to level up, in my opinion, but when you do level him up, it's not amazing. Like, sure, the dream is like Pale Cascade on Taric to get another Pale Cascade, or maybe Blessing of Targon on Taric to get another Blessing of Targon, or something. Like, those are the dream plays, but again, I'm not too impressed by them. You can do some Bastion nonsense too with Taric, and again, that doesn't feel that amazing. It just feels like you're doing other decks. You're trying to copy other decks like game plans, but you're not doing it as good whenever I see Taric. No, this does help though. This is a 3/4 is fine for a 4-drop. That's usually what you see as a 3-drop, but again, 4-mana 3/4s are okay, as we've seen from Shyvana before she got her buff. So who knows? Maybe we'll see, like, I don't know, Taric. I don't even know who would pair well with Taric right now. But yeah, we might see Taric come back. Next up, Tiana is getting a buff. She is now an 8-mana 8/8 instead of an 8-mana 7/7. Just a nice stat boost. I don't think Tiana is going to be played. I feel like if you want the effect of just rallying, there are better ways to get it in Demacia alone, not to mention other regions. Like if you're playing Bilgewater, you got Citrus Courier. Let's see what they have to say. Tiana should be a bigger trump to endgame followers from other regions. Okay, this change should give Demacia decks access to more finishing power and LoR. Allow Tiana to more consistently set up devastating rally attacks. Again, it's just like, I feel like you'd rather just play Relentless Pursuit. That's what I just feel. And instead of, if you want a big late game follower, just play like Genevieve, maybe a Bright Steel or two as well. I don't know. Tiana's in a weird spot, but yeah, it's nice for her. It's a nice buff, so who knows? Maybe she'll see like play. I've seen her like every now and again, and I've never been impressed by her. I'm mostly, whenever I see her, I'm just surprised, and I lose because I wasn't expecting Tiana, really. So, you know, she's got that surprise factor, I guess, because no one plays her. Next up, we got Warding Stones. This is the nerf that I think is actually going to kill War Mothers. I was talking about War Mothers and, to an extent, Feel the Rush with the Trundle nerf. If War Mothers and Feel the Rush disappear, or at least the Freljord Shadow Isles version of Feel the Rush disappears, I believe it's going to be because of the Warding Stones nerf. Warding Stones has gone, it started as a 0/4, and then it became a 0/3, and then it became a 0/4, and now it's going back to a 0/3. It's just going back and forth. This feels like a card that, in my opinion, they kind of wish they could get a nice sweet spot in between, because as a 0/3, this card kind of is just bad, but as a 0/4, it's just a little too big and too tough and just too good at stopping aggro and just stalling out aggro. So I feel like this is what's going to kill ramp and stall or stop ramp from being a prevalent threat. I'm going to see what they say here real quick. We want to open up more counterplay to mana ramp strategies, given the additional tools they've gained since Call of the Mountain. So we're reverting an old buff to Warding Stones in order to give opposing decks more opportunities to lay powerful endgame cards. I mean, you got like what? Voices of the Old Ones, I guess? And Faces of the Old Ones. I think that's the 2-mana 0/2 that if you behold an 8-mana card, you get mana. The problem with that card is it kind of turns off your avalanches. It's like, are you really going to play an avalanche to clear their aggro board and kill your mana ramp? I don't know. That's kind of why I think everyone plays Warding Stones over that card. And the fact that it's not even consistent. Sometimes you just don't have a unit to behold or a card to behold. So yeah, I think this is a big nerf for ramp decks in general. The Trundle nerf is painful, but this is also extremely painful, and this is going to kill ramp decks in my opinion. Because we've seen this nerf before anyway. We've seen when Warding Stones went to a 0/3, ramp kind of just disappeared. Came back as a 0/4. It took a while for it to come back too, and now it's going back to a 0/3. Next up, we got Fuzzy Caretaker. Not much to talk about with this guy. He is going down to 3 mana, and his health is going down to 2. So it'll be a 3/2 instead of a 3/3 for 3 mana now. Not much talking about him. They're saying how support-based Ionia decks could use more effective options, and Fuzzy Caretaker was a little bit too expensive to effectively fit the playstyle of low-to-the-ground support decks. I kind of agree. It was always like, whenever I saw support decks, I'm just like, play Shen as your 4-mana card. Or if you really want to, just like be more aggressive and play like Lulu and Zed. Now this does fight for the spot of Lulu, but you can play multiple 3-drops, so I don't know. It's not really my style of deck, and I always feel like this card is just a little too I don't know what the right term is, a little too gimmicky is not the word, but hard to like get to pay off. It's a little too much work for not that much payoff. Because the support too is also just temporary compared to a lot of other support cards we've gotten recently, which are permanent buffs like Tiari and other such things, like Tiari, Mentor of Stones, so on and so forth. Still, who knows? Maybe this will make it see play in Lulu Zed, which already is not even a good deck, in all honesty, ever since the War Chef's nerf. But maybe this will help out. Next up, Mina. She got a big buff. I think she's still bad. She is now a 9-mana 7/6 instead of a 6/5, and they also gave her quick attack when before she had really no keyword. The issue, I think, is still that she kind of just is in a weird spot where it's like, if you want a stun effect, or in this case, recall, like, sure, recall's better than stun, but if you kind of want a stun effect, I feel like Yone is kind of better. And yes, I know Targon is not in Targon's not Ionia, but you can play like Mind Splitter as well if you want something big with a lot of stats. So I don't know. I don't think Mina's just good. The other issue is I think any decks that would play Mina are just bad. Like, what deck would want to play Mina, really? Yasuo? And Yasuo's kind of bad, as I said. Maybe in the future with the next upcoming set, we'll see more stun and recall synergies, but I just don't think so. Maybe Noxus will get more stun and recall stuff with Riven coming out, because they're getting a lot of cards this upcoming set because of Riven, and maybe they'll get some stun and recall stuff in Noxus for, like, Yasuo Swain to do something, but I'm not expecting anything. Let's see what we got next. We got Funsmith. Nothing big here. She's now a 4-mana 1/3 instead of a 5-mana 2/3. All spells deal 1 extra damage if you don't know what this card is. Also skills do as well. She's, I mean, fun, I guess, to play, but I've never really considered this card a real threat. Maybe 4 mana for a 1/3 is just good enough. Because, like, she does buff things like really scary things like Withering Wail, Misfortune and attack, stuff like that. So it's nice. Buffing up, just even Mystic Shots are nice too. So, you know, maybe she'll see play, but I don't think so. Let's see what they're saying. Funsmith has never been able to find a home given its cost and relative fragility. So we're bringing down the curve to make it a more enticing and flexible option. Okay. Again, the problem I feel like with Funsmith too is if you want this effect, just go barrels, right? Go into Bilgewater. Sure, it's not as permanent. Like, barrels are temporary and you can interact with barrels, but I feel it's just better, really. I don't know. Also, PNZ kind of just sucks. Maybe when Victor comes out, PNZ will become good, but for now, I'm not seeing Funsmith being played in any kind of deck. Next up, Blackspear. Now deals 4 instead of 3 damage. That's a nice buff. Good buff to, what? Endureless, Mono Shadow Isles that plays Callista. Maybe Mono Shadow Isles will even play Blackspear itself. Because it used to actually, like, Mono Shadow Isles, not Mono Shadow Isles, but Shadow Isles mid-range used to actually play 3 copies of Blackspear before they nerfed it to what it is now, which is 3 mana. It used to cost 2 mana, and it dealt 3 to or 3 to something. Also had to have an ally die. And then they nerfed it 3 mana, and it kind of just fell off. And you only saw it if you got it randomly from, like, a Karma or something, or from Callista herself. So let's see what they're saying here. We'd like to strengthen removal options for synergy-based Shadow Isles decks, especially in light of the power of new burst speed protection spells from the last 2 expansions. I guess it's nice. Like, Shadow Isles did kind of struggle with things that had 4 health. Like, they had what? They had, like, lots of pings between Vile Feast, Unspeakable Horror, Withering Wail, and they're, like, mid-ish removal for big-ish mid-range stuff was what? Grasp? And it didn't really kill everything, or even that many things. So this is nice, I guess, if the meta has a lot of X4s that you want to kill. But again, the problem is something has to die, so you're gonna have to be like either attacking or playing ephemerals or glimpsing stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it'll see play as a 2-of in Shadow Isles mid, like mono Shadow Isles that plays like a lot of mist rates and stuff, and maybe a Hecarim or a Callista itself, or Elise maybe. I don't know. Still though, I think this is a good, nice buff. I don't think this is as powerful as old Blackspear when it was at 2 mana deal 3, but I think this is a nice buff. So who knows? Maybe this will actually see play. I'm actually I'm a little hopeful for this card. I think this card might see some more play now again. Outside of actual Callista Blackspears, of course. Next up, this is one that people have been begging for and have been surprised has been dodging nerfs. Riptide Rex. It has always felt to me that they've been trying to nerf around Riptide Rex and not nerf Rex directly, and they've nerfed a lot of other Bilgewater cards instead of nerfing Rex. And it feels like they've finally decided to nerf Rex, because we've seen what? Make It Rain get nerfed. We've seen Petty Officer get nerfed. Well, reverted. We've seen... I mentioned Make It Rain. What's the one I'm thinking of? Grifter. Yordle Grifter. To get that free warning shot get nerfed. Now Riptide Rex has finally been nerfed. He is now a 6/4 instead of a 7/4, which is... It's not a big nerf, but it's still a nerf. The bigger nerf is that he's only firing 6 cannon barrages instead of 7. The nice thing is it makes it less consistent for actually clearing a board. It always felt bad when you're trying to fight the board and you're like basically equal with your opponent on the board, and then they play like Make It Rain or Death's Hand or whatever, a warning shot maybe, and then they play Riptide Rex and you're like, well, there goes my board, and you don't have a way to get back on the board really quickly or just clear the board like a Ruination. Let's see what they have to say here. The sheer volume of cannon barrages laid down by Riptide Rex have made him too consistent at wiping boards, like I said. Finishing games with his high power, and ultimately preventing counterplay, while also posing a long-term issue with our board's 9 spell/ability limit. If you don't understand what that means, it's, if you don't know, on the stack, or spell limit, whatever you want to call it, you can only have 9 things on the stack at once, and since Riptide Rex would put 7, you could actually, in theory, play a spell and then another spell to flood it, to make it so your opponent couldn't play anything in response, or your opponent could even do that too, so they couldn't play anything in response. You could play maybe like a glimpse into a Vile Feast or something to prevent them from responding with, say, like a Make It Rain or whatever. Let's see what else to say. These changes aim to address all of those issues while leaving Rex's core play pattern intact. I think this is a good nerf. For a while, I always thought Rex was not that bad, and then the more and more I saw Rex, the more and more I hated him, and then I was on the, yeah, he needs a nerf camp. Now, I like this nerf because I don't think it's going to completely destroy Rex. You might not play as many, though, in maybe TF Swain, which that deck's not even that good at the moment, but who knows? This is, I think, more of a nerf to just Bilgewater decks that are not playing Swain, really, because Swain decks have they have Leviathan as their 8-drop of choice, and they would play like 1 or maybe even 2 Rexes if they want to be a little greedier. Now without Rex, it's I mean, he's still here, but he's not as good as he once was. He's still powerful though, don't get me wrong. Next up, I believe we have Eclipse Dragon. This one I don't really understand too much. I feel like this buff is just because they're like, dragons are kind of not working out. Let's throw them another buff besides the Shyvana buff. Eclipse Dragon is now a 7-mana 7/7. It was a 7/5 before. I already thought the card was great as a 7/5. Let's see what they're saying. Eclipse Dragon's stats were underwhelming given its lack of immediate game impact, and we'd like to see it be a more generally effective option for both big dragons and Daybreak decks. I felt like the fact that it had very little health was intended, because it meant like, oh, it comes down and it's supposed to be like a tempo hit, quote unquote. Like you would play this card, take a hit in tempo to either ramp something out next turn if you Daybreak, or get some card advantage if you use Nightfall. Now it just feels like a good card. Now it's just like, oh, hey, here's a 7-mana 7/7. Sure, it's a 7-drop that's not really doing anything on board, so maybe? It's going to be harder to kill now unless you have an actual hard kill spell, but I don't know. This is scary. Still, I don't think dragons are going to be good. If I think anything's benefiting from this, maybe like Aurelion Soul Trundle, but that deck is getting hurt by like ramp nerfs and the Aurelia, or sorry, the Trundle nerf. Who knows? And I believe that's it. Yeah, we got the new lab. This is a very interesting lab. Apparently, you build the deck, and then if it fulfills one of these conditions, you'll get that. If all the cards are even at the start of the round, your allies get +1/+0. If they're odd, +0/+1. If you have no followers, when you cast your second spell each round, create a follower in hand that costs less than or equal to your max mana. All the cards are common from round 7 onwards. Start of round, create a leveled up champ in hand. Basically, the Howling Abyss effect. Sounds very fun. I might play some of this lab on stream. Sounds very fun. They're also going to be making the Gauntlet best of 3 for this week. Or for the next 2 weeks of Gauntlets, it seems. They're going to also, because you're going to need more wins, they're lowering it to 4 wins per Gauntlet run now instead of the usual 7. This is mostly just to get people familiar with the tournament mode. I like it. It gives people who don't play tournaments a taste of tournament mode, if that makes sense. And then some other stuff here, which is just, you know, we discussed a little bit. Friend spectate, so you can now spectate with spectate your friends' matches. They're even saying how like it's coming out early, so it's going to be a little bit buggy, which, you know, it makes sense. Like, this is League or Riot here. I don't even know if League of Legends has a spectate mode yet. That's always been a thing that I remember everyone laughed at Riot for not having a spectate mode in League. I think they have one now, but I'm not sure. I don't play League anymore. And of course, expedition changes. Not that many expedition changes though. Only like 3? Crimson Guard, Dragon Descent, and Mending Touch changes. Oh, and offering rates for Monuments of Power archetypes are reduced to normal levels. So that's actually kind of big. So yeah, that's nice if you play expeditions. I'm not the biggest expedition player, as I always say, but that's nice. What about the miscellaneous stuff? Various updates to the leaderboard, most used deck code, player icons, and visual polish. Oh, that's kind of nice. Little bit of extra bells and whistles. Imported decks are now immediately nameable. That's nice. I don't have to search for the deck that just says imported deck now. Rewarded cards are now inspectable during reward ceremonies. It's a nice little addition. And in collection and store, the details panel for cosmetic items can now be closed by tapping outside of it. It's nice. Just some nice, like, quality of life stuff there. And then a couple of bug fixes too. Just like some language stuff and an issue where players occasionally couldn't collect rewards or XP. Wait, what? We couldn't collect rewards or XP would display incorrectly. Ah, I see. And that's it. So that's it for the patch. Lots of changes for cards. I really like pretty much all of the card changes. The one thing I will say, because I know they have to lock in the changes like a couple weeks in advance because of mobile and stuff. I'm a little scared of Scouts just taking over, because Scouts already are really good of a deck. And I feel like with War Mothers getting like kind of gutted, with Trundle as well getting gutted, Scouts is in position to take over. Like Scouts and Fiora Shen, like, sure, maybe we can tech for it, but that deck just feels really good right now and really strong. We even saw it with their metagame snapshot data, where how like Scouts and Fiora Shen were basically the 2 best decks, the 2 highest win rate decks, really. And again, win rate's not everything, but it's still really good and really scary. So who knows? Maybe Tahm Kench Soraka will rise up to crush the Scout players. Maybe. But that's going to be it for today's patch review. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me give my thoughts and opinions on all the card changes and just the patch in general. If you enjoyed the video and you have anything you'd like to say, of course, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. If you think maybe you think War Mothers is still going to be good, maybe you think Scouts is not that good, maybe you think Tahm Soraka is going to be the thing to beat instead of Scouts. I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment down below. But also, if you enjoyed the video in general, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment below. And if you guys want to keep up with the Runeterra comment, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you guys want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, you can always check me out on my Twitch account at twitch.tv/Senaton. And with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!